Is there a way to like search for these professional tenants, I guess they call them? Like, is there some kind of a search that can be done that shows that they've done this before or numerous times, or that they're in the middle of a LTB hearing?
So yes and no. I would say if you look at the tools in the formal conversation around how to spot professional tenants, there are sites like Canly or Open Room where judgments are supposed to be posted, but there is just as much conversation about the delay in posting or the lack of posting altogether that's in there. What we really stress with our clientele and our leasing team when we train them is not how to look for professional tenants, but how to look for your quality tenants. Because ultimately, professional tenants don't have perfect systems. And when you do the screening the proper way, those professional tenants fall off. And the proper way is a couple key factors. So one huge thing is pulling your own credit checks. So we have a tool that's tapped into Equifax and we pull our own credit check. We don't care if the credit check is from Equifax and coming from a realtor. You know, we've seen fakes. We see fakes all the time. We do not trust anything unless it comes directly from us. And if there's any shade of a doubt that may be a little bit off, we don't go with that tenant. Like Rob said, volume and exposure is not the problem. It's about finding that needle in the haystack of that perfect tenant and that perfect fit. The other thing that we have is income and expense verification. So through open banking, we can actually tap into someone's bank account with their consent and see the payroll deposits that are coming through, see the government income that's coming through, see the rent that's going out. And if they say, they have no pets, but they're making a transaction at PetSmart for $42 every month, it's likely they have a pet. If they say
not
they're
that we
not
would
smoking,
exclude you because of that, but
right.
We're just pattern of behavior here, right?
Yeah, maybe you have a condo that has a bylaw that excludes pets, so you can do that. But the reality is that screening for the right tenant is a lot more important than screening out the wrong tenant. And a lot of the conversation that exists on social media, in the news, is about the professional tenants, the scammers, and things like that, where they're a very, very small portion of the population. And ultimately, if the professional tenant is going and having something listed on Canly about them, they're likely going to change up their profile. They're going to change up their systems. They're going to get a different ID and fake ID to make sure that things pass. And they're going to get through, your attempt at spotting a professional tenant. So you want to spot the high quality tenants, not the professional tenants.
I have a very small property management background and I've been a realtor for about 15 years. I've never seen a professional tenant pull a fast one on a professional landlord.
Right.
Me.
Fair enough.
It's a vulnerable landlord that they prey on to be able to get away with
the way
what they're
that
getting away with.
The screening system that we set up, there's always going to be inherent risk, right? And I think that a landlord needs to accept the fact that there always going to be a low volume of risk. But the screening tool that we set up and how Hart and I discussed it and how we wanted it to be built was every time you find a little bit more information or the screening tool is a little bit more advanced like ours, it's reducing the risk significantly to you overall as an investor and a landlord to understand more about the tenant, the situation, and there's more questions answered on your end. So the comfort level and that gut feeling of can you rent to a tenant is essentially answered in the data that's provided in that screening tool. So totally agree with what you're saying in terms of a professional landlord. That's why we built that system in place. Like, we talk to landlords every single day, multiple times a day to get the feedback to build that tool to essentially have that information available for them to screen their tenants.